Hi Aries, welcome back. We are here with your higher octave reading for the period of September 9 till September 24, which is the new moon in Virgo to the full moon in Pisces. And if you'll remember from the end of the last reading, I was talking about how what it looks like here is a psychic battle of sorts that's going on. And yeah, as I said, if you're dealing with somebody in your space, whether it's a partner or someone in your business world, in your work life, where you feel like you're constantly being under some kind of attack, where it's making you second guess yourself, or where you feel like it's making you confused, or you're having to defend yourself a lot. Let's take a look here. At the center of the reading, you have the Child of Worlds, which relates to the Page of Pentacles in the Rider-Waite deck, crossed by the Four of Wands. Now, you have two fours in the reading. You have the Four of Wands as the crossing card, and you have the Four of Worlds, which is the Four of Pentacles, in the Rider-Waite deck in this position here, with the Woman of Cups. So you had the Queen of Cups in the first reading, in your outcome, and you have it again here in the position of you. This is you in your environment. Again, I would repeat what I said in the first reading, in that I think that a lot of what this is about is you being empowered in what you feel, being unquestionably clear and sure about your feelings, and not doubting what you feel. That came through really strongly in the first reading, where I felt like I needed to keep saying that, like, don't doubt what you feel, don't question what you feel, because as any person who is empowered in their intuition will know, that your emotional impulses are the indicators. That's the clear guidance. That is where your intuition speaks to you. It's in your gut. It's your feelings. It's your emotional body. I'm not talking about emotions like, sadness or whatever. I'm talking about like that impulse, that feeling that you have that is unquestionable. And seeing this card come out again would just say that it does seem to want to drive the point home about this being a way for you to be empowered in your feelings, and to be clear about your feelings, and to trust your feelings, and not question and not doubt what you feel, because that's where your psychic impulses and your intuition is really speaking to you from in the first place. So coming back to the central card of the reading, the Heart of the Matter and the Crossing card, the Page of Worlds, or the Child of Worlds here, crossed by the Four of Wands, with this extension card here, the Four of Worlds with the Queen of Cups. The two fours there would kind of indicate that there is, again, this is about you kind of managing your energy, consolidating your energy, and feeling like stable in your own foundation. If we want to talk about, like, in the manifest world, the physical world, the mundane world, having the Four of Wands there and the Four of Worlds here, it could suggest again that there is a need to shake things up in your physical world, make a big shift somehow, like really kind of turn things around as far as like your environment, your home life. This could be about the challenge here. The crossing card could indicate that it's about, in the Rider-Waite deck, the Four of Wands is that card that sort of typically celebrates marriage. That's that celebration card of like the happy family. If that's the crossing card here, it could suggest that that's what's at question, is that relationship. But on an energetic level, this deck is slightly different than the Rider-Waite deck. This deck, the Four of Wands, is called Aspiration. And being that this card is in the crossing position, it does kind of say to me that, the challenge for you is to reach for something for yourself, to reach for higher, to strive for more, to reach for a greater quality of life, or to reach for higher learning, whatever it is. It's the aspiration, it's the striving for something, it's the desire for more. And with the Four of Worlds here in the reverse position, it would suggest to me that, again, it's kind of a similar feeling to the crowning card you had in the last reading with the Seven of Pentacles in the reverse. It does feel a little bit like this is about your boundaries being, you know, disrespected, in that your energy is your energy is leaking. You know, like it could be describing someone in your environment who's kind of taking more than they are deserving of, you know. But in regards to the cards in this reading, and in context to this being your higher octave reading, I think the Four of Worlds together here with the Queen of Cups, the Woman of Cups, it does seem to speak to the fact that you do need to learn clearer boundaries, and that is something I spoke about in the first reading as well. And seeing the Death card here as well in this spread, it does kind of force that point home again too of you know, being able to identify when endings need to happen and taking the first step, initiating that on your own, and being a little bit more empowered in drawing the line, in cutting people off, in delineating your boundaries, and just designing your space so that it is exactly the way you want it, and that it's not being impinged upon or imposed upon by people who don't respect you, or who don't respect your space, or who don't, you know, have any regard for your resources and your time and your money, and who are taking advantage of. That's something else that I feel is coming up here, is that perhaps there's part of you that's a little bit too generous, and this is a little bit of an education for you in learning how to say no to people so that you can not feel like you're being taken advantage of. Because at the end of the day, like, nobody really takes anything from us. We give it to them on some level. So if you're needing to learn how to define your boundaries more clearly so that you are not in that position where you feel like people are taking from you, or people are taking advantage of your generous nature, or taking advantage of the situation, it's clearly up to you to define boundaries more definitively, and to let people know where the limit is. Okay? So, as I said earlier, at the end of the last reading, I spoke about a psychic battle. I want to talk about that a little bit more, because at the foundation of the reading, you have the Priestess in reverse, and the crowning card is the Magician in the reverse. And I just thought that was a very interesting mirroring of energies going on here, where, you know, the Priestess in the foundation of the reading, this is in the position of the unconscious, and the crowning card is the conscious. So, but as this is like an overtone reading, a higher octave reading, I feel like these two cards are describing the energy of you, and I'm seeing you as this person in the foundation, as the Priestess reversed, and the Magician card as the crowning card being the person that you're kind of facing off with, the person that you're dealing with. And it does seem to feel like because you're in the reverse position and you're in the unconscious, it does feel like your capacity, or your ability, or your power is maybe not fully met yet. Your potential is still not quite met yet, and that's giving this other person the upper hand in the situation, and it's what could make you feel like you're being manipulated. And it's simply just, again, points to the fact that I feel like your emotional strength, maybe you don't understand that your emotional strength is actually, it's two sides of the same coin of vulnerability and sensitivity. You know, I think that's something a lot of women struggle with, is that they feel that their sensitivity is a vulnerability, but actually it's a strength. And to really become more empathic and to become more sensitive is to really embody that kind of emotional, not emotional in the sense of like moody and like depressed or whatever, but really to like be empowered in the feeling and sensitive part of you, to really tap into all the signals and messages that you're getting, all the information that's coming through to you in your environment, in signs and symbols, in your dream space, in just your gut feeling, like your reactions to things. That is actually a huge strength. And it's you know, for some people, for a lot of people, when they start to open up to their psychic ability and to their intuition, that can feel really challenging for a while until you get a grip on it. to constantly be feeling everything that's going on around you. But it's just about, again, it's kind of also the same thing about like learning boundaries. It's like learning how to read that information and understand what you're getting and the impulses that are coming through without it causing you to react, without you letting it throw you off, without it letting you feel weakened by it, or without you actually taking on all those feelings and sensations, but rather just catching the imprint of it and knowing how to respond to it in an empowered way by simply either, removing yourself from a situation if it's too much, if the vibe is off, or it could mean, like just knowing the right thing to say to someone at the right moment to kind of turn a situation around and diffuse something. And you have the outcome position here, the 9 of Wands. In this deck, it's called integrity. And I feel like that's a really important word and value to embody as part of this whole development of your psychic ability and your intuitive capacities, to make yourself strengthened by it, and use your integrity to actually direct the energies in the right way, so that you're not, again, like I said, not being thrown off by it. It's not causing you to feel things that you don't need to be feeling. Other people's issues are their issues. You can feel what's going on and you can understand a situation. You can totally read a person and read all the things that are going on. It doesn't mean that you have to be turned upside down by it. It can be a powerful tool to have that information and to know what's going on with other people without it throwing you off in your own life, in your own emotional state. So in this quadrant here, you have the Child of Wands in the reverse with the Death card. I kind of touched on this already. I really feel like this is very much speaking to you in regards to knowing how and when to clearly define your boundaries, how to say no to people, how to limit or restrict even the amount of time you spend with certain people if you know that they're toxic and that their energy is like not working for you. It's not always the case that you can just cut people out of your life. Like everyone's got their issues, and we always have to deal with people that aren't necessarily in their whole state, who are operating from a more evolved frequency. We have to deal with all different kinds of people all the time, but learning how to say no, learning how to limit, learning how to still be kind and compassionate and respectful to people, but not just give yourself fully into someone else's neediness or into someone else's drama or someone else's problems. It's a really, really valuable and really important skill to learn as you develop more your intuitive and psychic capacity. And now in the crowning positions here, you have the Woman of Crystals reversed with the 5 of Crystals also reversed with the Hierophant. So there's 2 5s there. And then you have this card in this deck is called Art. It's the Temperance card. Now again, seeing the Hierophant here in reverse, along with Temperance, that just does also kind of seems like it's reminding me that, like, the Hierophant is about higher learning, right? And it's also about commitment. It's about dedication. It's about discipline. And sometimes the lessons come through in challenging ways. That's why the 5s are always kind of a little bit, when you see the 5s coming out, everyone kind of cringes a little bit. But it's through those crises and through those moments of challenge and difficulty that we learn the most. And that's kind of what the lesson of the Hierophant is that, embrace those opportunities to learn through difficulty, because that's where you actually get the most, Those moments in life when you're having those kind of challenging, difficult moments, and when you actually are accelerated in your growth. And having the Temperance card there, it's just a reminder again to kind of be neutral and balanced in all things when you're in situations where, again, there's difficulty or strife or challenge. To maintain a neutral space and keep the heart open and balance your emotions, stay grounded, keep your awareness switched on and activated, and don't shut down. Having boundaries and being clear with people is not the same as shutting down. It's not the same thing at all. There's a big difference between like being able to resolve energies and be in environments which are not super perfectly healthy and perfect at all times, and being able to sort of manage your own energetic field in those environments. It's a really important thing to learn. So with the Woman of Crystals and the Five of Crystals here, this is in the position of your hopes and fears. So again, you've had a couple of fives come out, and this is the Five of Crystals is the Five of Swords in this deck. And then seeing these two cards together in the position of your hopes and fears, I think there's again more to be said about the clarity of mind, you know, because the Swords is about mind, and everything is mind actually. Everything starts from the mind. All feelings actually start from the mind. That's why I was saying, like, when you're in your emotional body and you're feeling things, it's a pure impulse. But the type of emotions like sadness or grief or whatever, those are actually started in the mind and then felt in the body. So it's interesting and important to differentiate those two things. Now, the Woman of Crystals in the reverse there, I do think that there is something here, as I said earlier, like from the previous spread, if you're engaging with someone in your environment who's manipulative and dishonest, you know, the Woman of Crystals here in the reverse also could indicate that there's something in you that's being mirrored there that you need to acknowledge and you need to get right with. Whether you're also kind of engaging in argumentativeness or antagonism or, you know, conflict internally or externally, it's about breaking the habit and learning to be more honest, because honesty is genuinely like the fastest way to clear through difficult situations and difficult karma. If you just like, you can seriously just turn a situation on its head if you just like slice through with the truth. And that's one of the lessons that the Woman of Crystals has to offer us, is like, truth will set you free, you know, in your own mind too. I feel like the Five of Crystals is about the internal space of, you know, worry, anxiety, thoughts running around in the mind, the constant like rumination of things. Again, if you just like clear away and work to resolve the mental space and just pay more attention to what's going on there, and don't let yourself get carried away with running thoughts, with repeating, like redoing conversations in your mind, and letting yourself get kind of lost and wasting time, actually repeating things in your mind that you can never change. You know, clear the mind of the need to kind of continually go back to the past and replay things in your head, because this is what causes depression. Actually, there's science behind that. It's not just some woo-woo. There's real science behind that. If you're constantly ruminating and you're constantly reliving conversations and reliving arguments and trying to, you know, practice what you would have said and what you didn't said and how you would have changed things, there's a direct link between that and depression. So release yourself from the bad habit of trying to replay things in your mind and say things that you wish you had have said, because that will just make you feel terrible. So cut through that and just learn how to accept things for what they are, and you know, do things differently in the future. But yeah, coming back to this central axis here of the reading with the High Priestess in reverse at the foundation and the Magician. Again, if you're in some type of like difficult connection with someone and it feels like there's like toxicity, some unhealthy dynamic going on, and it does, like I said, feel like some type of psychic battle going on. Bring all that into the conscious world, and don't let it just be something that's playing on in the subconscious mind or in the unspoken world. Like, feel free, feel empowered to raise issues directly to the person that you're dealing with if you feel like they will receive you. And of course, never approach someone with aggression. If you want to resolve something genuinely, you have to be really mindful of choosing the right words and specifically choosing the right time, so that you make sure that if you're actually approaching someone about something really serious that you genuinely want to resolve and you want to look at, or if there's something that you want to bring someone's attention to, if you don't choose the right timing to do that, they won't receive it and the opportunity will be missed. So it's super important to be, again, very sensitive, like tap into your sensitivity, to know how and when to bring a topic to somebody with the right words, in the right timing, with the right context, with the right energy, with the right approach, so that they can actually receive you and you can do something positive with it, and it doesn't become a lost opportunity, or it doesn't turn into an argument, it doesn't turn into a fight. You know, really strive to find the right moment to bring topics to somebody so that you can actually get a resolve, and that they can actually hear you and really feel what you're saying, what you're bringing to them. If it's coming from a really genuine, compassionate place, you know, if you can see something in a person, or if a person's behavior is affecting you in a certain way and you want to let them know because you don't feel like they're aware of it, it's really important to be it's very deliberate and careful about the language you use, how you say it to them, and when you say it. Let's have a look here at the bottom of the deck. You have the Sage of Worlds in reverse, the Five of Wands in reverse, the Eight of Worlds in reverse, and the Sage of Crystals in reverse. So there's 3 sages coming out in this reading. Sorry, 2. 2 sages and 2 women, 2 queens. Again, all these reverse cards coming out here. I just really feel like this is a huge opportunity for you to gain some clarity on, you know, how much you actually have, how much of a say you actually have in the situation. I think that if you just are letting someone bulldoze you, then you're going to be bulldozed. But if you are willing to learn to stand your ground and to say no to people, and to come with like a higher minded kind of approach to the situation, you can generate change for yourself and for the other person. And it may you know, create if you're instigating change in the situation, of course change always brings about, you know, it requires effort. So it could be a difficult moment, but when you arrive to that point when you know things need to change, not changing is worse than not changing is worse than staying. Sorry, not changing. Yeah, not changing is worse than actually making steps forward to catalyze the situation. Because if you're in a position in life, or in a moment in life where things are not working for you and you really need to make a shift and you don't, you're going to find yourself feeling worse and worse, and more stagnancy, more difficulty in life will ensue after that. Because once you know that a change needs to be made, you really do need to move forward with it. Again, you have the Five of Wands here, which is called oppression in this deck. So again, I feel like there is some like unhealthy relating going on that really needs to be addressed. And if the person that you're relating with is, if you feel like they are not on the program with you, like if they're not on the same page as far as like wanting to evolve in themselves as individuals, if they're not on a path of healing and growth, and you are, then, you know, the choice is yours. But like, you really want to be met in life in your relationships, because that's when you actually can do work. If you're pouring energy into a relationship and you're not being reciprocated, it's very exhausting. And I mean, unless you can really feel like that person could actually come through at some point and wake up and want to actually start to work towards their own healing, it's kind of like you're kind of holding yourself back from your own healing path, you know? Yeah, Six of Crystals, confusion. I know it's a tough decision to make, to like walk away from something, especially if you've already invested a bunch of time. But as I said, you've got to weigh up your options and just read the situation for what it is, and see where you're at, see where that other person's at, and read how you feel, and like just check in with yourself, either verbally with that other person, or if you don't feel like they're going to meet you with reciprocity in that space of like evolving and healing and growing and changing, and actually being willing to like face some issues and talk about some stuff and get some things out in the open so that things can be resolved and moved forward, then you may find that the best thing for you to do would be to simply end the relationship and move forward in your own way, and create a space for someone else to come into your life that's more, will meet you more in that space of your healing path and your desire to grow and evolve. Let's see if there's anything else. The moon. Yeah, growth. I think we've covered everything. As I said, there is that energy of like, on a sort of karmic, on a spiritual level, there is a lot here about you developing your psychic ability and your intuition. And a lot of that also is very tightly intertwined with clear boundaries, learning how to limit your time with certain people if they're kind of taking a lot of energy, learning how to balance your generous nature and put your energy in the places where you feel like it's going to be appreciated and received well, and not just keep pouring it into people who are ungrateful and don't deserve it. It's a tough lesson to learn, to kind of go through this process where you feel like you want to share and you want to give and you want to help. But if you're constantly putting energy into people that don't deserve it and don't appreciate it, then people who really could use your help are missing out. People who could really appreciate your help and really be supported and nurtured by you in ways that they could then reciprocate to you, they're missing out if you're continually pouring your energy into people who really don't appreciate or deserve it. So that's some of the lessons here, is about clear boundaries, trusting what you feel, really like honing in and listening to your impulses and your intuition and your gut, trusting those feelings and making decisions and acting on those things without second guessing, without letting yourself get swirled into confusion, whether it's your own internal space or if someone else is kind of making you feel doubt or confusion. It's like getting really clear in the mind. That's what the Woman of Crystals is saying. Clarity of the mind. And you see how she's got this sort of heart and mind connection going on? Because it's not just about mind, it's about heart and mind together, working together, like this gentle, loving kindness and compassion working together with a higher mind, and having the clarity in that space and being grounded and being like having your energy consolidated and coming from a place of integrity where like everything's working together. Your feelings are working, your mind is working, your body is acting, your fire, your willpower is everything's all fired up and working together as one. Then you're really coming into your power. Don't doubt what you feel. Don't doubt what you feel. That's the clear message here. Trust your feelings. Trust your feelings. There's a lot opening up for you in that intuitive, emotionally connected space. And that's where psychic development really starts to kick in. But if you're constantly second guessing yourself and doubting your feelings, you're kind of putting a block on those, because really that's where your guides are trying to speak to you through, is through those sensations of gut feelings. And if you're constantly saying no to them, then they stop talking to you. So trust what you feel. Yeah, you're in a growth spurt, certainly, and that could feel a little bit uncomfortable, but I guarantee you that when you come through this, you'll understand what it was all for, and it will totally be worth it. But just make sure that you keep stepping forward in the right direction, in that you are doing things that you know are right for you and not putting other people first. You got to prioritize yourself. Don't put other people first, because they're sending a message to the universe when you do that. You're sending a message to people around you as well. Like, if you keep letting other people be the priority, they'll keep taking advantage. Okay, Aries. That's your higher octave for this cycle. That's for the September 9 new moon in Virgo to the September 24th full moon in Pisces. Again, watch this again right now and watch it again in a week's time, because you'll gather more pieces of information that are relevant as events unfold. And I will see you in the next reading.